Hey everybody. Before we start the show, I just wanted to make this little impromptu recording here. Sorry if the quality sucks and everything else, but right now, as we speak, there's a act of terrorism happening in our second city in Barcelona. A lot of people hurt, a lot of people killed. You know, we don't really know everything that's going on right now. And I guess it'll come out over the coming days, but it's literally developing right now as the show's about to go live. And so I just wanted to take a minute, let everybody there know they're in our hearts and our thoughts. I'm grateful that most of the people I know are safe and accounted for. But I know people in the area, near the area, and in the city in general, and it's going to be a difficult time for a lot of them. I have friends who work in the hospitals there who are currently caring for the victims of this senseless act. And anyway, not to bring the mood down too much, but I just wanted to let everyone over there know that we're thinking about them, and we're here with them. So with that, stick around. Hopefully the show will be a little more upbeat, but much love to everybody in Barcelona, and we'll see you all again soon.
I'm going to start with that because that recorded just perfectly.
Please don't, unless it sounds awesome.
It will.
All right, pause. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. He's Mike, I'm Ryan, it's Eggs. This is Eggs. This is Eggs.
What's Eggs?
Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever. We'll talk about the process of growing your eggs from start to finish.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. Better now, actually.
Well, good.
Ready to record. I've been looking forward to this.
I know.
So my favorite hour of the week.
It actually is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I quite enjoy it. I don't know if we're getting any good at it, but even for our own recreation, I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm having a good time with this.
Yeah, pretty fun. And so I think that's pretty awesome. So kicking off the show, a little bit of show news. It's kind of exciting. We are now on Google Play, in the Google Play Store.
For
Google
all
Play
you
Music
Android
Store, for all of you Android
guys,
users. And it's funny because it actually took my niece telling me, hey, I can't get your show on my Android phone, for me to go, oh, wait, there's another market out there that we're not in.
We totally forgot about half the population of the U.S.
Yeah, so you were watching our Instagram the other day. We made the announcement in valiant form. However,
if you haven't been watching our Instagram, you should.
Yeah, you should.
It's really quite fun.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And we could use some more followers and some more sharers and some more everything. So, so be sure to follow us at Instagram at Eggs Show. So, but anyway, so that was kind of a nice little highlight this week. We got approved for the Google Play Store, so that's fun. You can get all the episodes of the show there. So that's exciting news. Also, just while I was Googling around, I was trying to find a link so that I could actually share the Google link, and maybe I'm just not smart enough to figure it out.
I think that's probably the case.
You're probably right, but I think they've got it gated or something, and so when you go to follow the link that I was able to find for our show, it prompts you to sign up and all this other stuff. And so I don't know. Hopefully, it's easy enough to find on the app from an Android phone.
I didn't even know that was there. Like I had no clue that was even a thing.
Well, yeah, but you and I live in kind of an Apple universe. So, I mean, for us, we wouldn't know. But do take a gander, if you don't mind, at the Google Play Store and let us know if you can find the show or if you have any trouble.
Are they getting ready to launch a new iPhone?
I don't know. I think generally it's around September, October.
I just saw a funny meme the other day about Apple's new secret release iPhone 8 with the new home button, and it's like a.
What are we on right now, though? Aren't we on are we at 7S or just 7? I think.
I think I'm on a 6 still. It's been a minute.
Well, I have a 7, maybe
Are the S's? I don't know if the S's came out. I don't know. Normally there's an S model in between, come like January time. So maybe I have a 7S Plus.
All I know is I didn't want to upgrade because I didn't want to lose the headphone jack. That's pretty much it. Oh,
come on. Get past it.
And the sad part is my headphone jack's broken, so it doesn't even matter.
See? So it's time. It's time. Unless they're coming out with an 8 in a couple months, and then just hold on.
Yeah, I know.
So, because, all the like preview photos and stuff I've seen look pretty sweet. So,
cool.
I don't know if that's what the 8 will actually look like, but it's like edge to edge, like no real buttons. Like, I mean, it's pretty...
Well, that was the funny part about the meme. It was like, it was making fun of iPhones. The new home button, and it was like an attachment for $99 you can plug into the USB port.
That's awesome. That would be it, right? They just remove all that functionality, and now you have to buy a dongle.
You can't even hit the button anymore. You got to have a dongle.
Yeah, I saw an article on LinkedIn or something the other day that was that something like, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but the Apple makes something like 87 dongles or something like that, and it would cost $890 to buy them all.
Really?
Like, I mean, and it's every little dongle. I mean, of course, every little one's $20 or $30.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, it makes sense, but it's just funny that they create so many dongles.
Just adapters and things.
Well, that's the thing, because they're constantly changing the way you do power or whatever.
And they keep trying to justify it like it's a necessity, like, oh, we have to change to make room to make the phone smaller, da-da-da-da-da. And yeah, like, I can see the logic behind that, but it almost seems like they're doing it to make you buy new adapters.
Well, it's funny. The example I always point to is like when they got rid of the CD drive.
Yeah.
I know, like, for me personally, it was like a panic attack. Like, oh my God, how am I not going to have a CD
How am I going to be able to burn CDs?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to get an external. I've got to do all the stuff. It's going to be such a mess.
And you never use it anyways.
I've never used it. Yeah. In fact, the big bummer is that one of my older Macs has got a CD stuck in it that I can't get out. So it's actually more harm than it's good.
Yeah.
So anyway, to finish that thought,
the trick with that is you slide a credit card in and kind of push down on it, and the roller that pushes the disc out
catch it and push it out.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. So anyway, to finish that thought, the other thing I found online, just Googling around today, we didn't submit the show to this site, so I don't know where they're getting it from. I mean, clearly they're grabbing our feed, but I don't know how come or why.
Because we're badass and awesome.
That's probably
it.
It didn't say specifically on the site, but I'm pretty sure that's what it meant. There's a website called Player FM. So you can find us at player.fm/series/eggs the podcast. If you just Google eggs the podcast, though, it comes up. So anyway, so kind of fun news. Good to see the show spreading out and getting picked up in more and more places. Right now we're on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, assuming it doesn't go defunct.
Google Play. Yeah, that's actually kind of sketch. We have all our shows backed up, but I don't want to go and re-upload everything and spend 4 hours doing that again.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing is every week I'm seeing another article, mostly from you, that,
well, it's relevant in the DJ world.
Yeah,
so
SoundCloud's going out of business this week. SoundCloud's defunct. SoundCloud's bankrupt. And of course we chose SoundCloud to host the podcast because it was one of the cheaper options. And so we
had a good RSS feed.
And actually they have a good,
great. Yeah.
I mean, their interface and everything is actually pretty slick. I mean, it's not a bad place to host a podcast unless they're going out of business sometime soon.
I don't see why they would just close doors and say,
it doesn't make sense to me. I think a lot of times people hear bankruptcy and then they go, "Oh, it's gone forever." Bankruptcy means the end. But
look
in
at
business,
Trump, he's still around.
Yeah, I think. But in business, like bankruptcy isn't the end. Usually, it'll get maybe they'll sell it, they'll do something, they'll part of the technology, and someone else will buy it.
It's actually like a strategy. Yeah, like they'll actually plan stuff around that.
So I mean, at this point, we're still live on SoundCloud and. Yeah, I mean, I guess will be unless we're told different. So, but for all you podcasters and upcoming podcasters, it's a great platform. SoundCloud is pretty great. The price is right. Unlimited bandwidth for like $15 or $20 a month.
And that's probably why they're going out of business.
Yeah, cheapest guy on the block. So, and we researched quite a few, but I've been really happy with their interface and everything else. The RSS feed
I used them before.
I
had kind of a chip on my shoulder before the podcasting part, just because I had a lot of plays and a lot of cool stuff up there, and they pulled my account down. But
you weren't stealing all that music.
Well, I was doing cool stuff with it. But anyways, yeah.
So cool. All right. Well, so this week, another busy week, as every week. Mike, you're still traveling. You're still moving around.
I feel like I haven't been home. I mean, like I could drive this route from Idaho to Seattle blindfolded now.
Don't.
I should try it sometime. Just
it's bad
feedback. I had a wedding in Oroville, which is right on the Canadian border. about an hour and a half north of Chelan, and it was super windy. Like we had to put the tent that we were set up under didn't have walls on it, and the wind was picking up so bad it was blowing all the linens and the silverware and glasses and stuff off the table. So I put walls up. So now I had set up outside of the tent, and they put a wall up. I couldn't see anyone inside the tent. And I'm DJing for people inside the tent. It was weird. And so once
hard to read the crowd when you can't see the crowd.
Yeah, I'm just standing out there by myself, just kind of like, okay, this is weird. Eventually the wind died down. They were able to pull the walls back down, and it ended up being a really fun.
You were able to re-engage your audience.
Re-engage and have a good show. Then I got a text message during the wedding. My buddy's like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing?" Took a picture of the dance floor. I'm like, "I'm at a wedding. I can't. What do you want?" It's like, "Oh,
always the DJ, never the bride."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, groom. I hope. No, I have friends that were in town from Bermuda, and I hadn't seen them for a few years.
Who knows anyone from Bermuda?
Well, I knew him from Anacortes.
Oh, okay.
And he does carbon fiber work on big, expensive boats. He actually did all the carbon fiber work on the Oracle America's Cup boat.
Oh, wow.
And he was one of the lead guys there. But he was back in town for a little bit before heading on to the next project, and they were out camping. And so I drove as far as I could that night and was supposed to meet up with them, but there was a bunch of traffic getting into town, and by the time I got to the campsite, it was dark. I couldn't find him. So I just slept on the side of the road and found him the next day, and ended up having a lot of fun with him. Then drove directly from camping to here. So
yeah, literally directly from sunny Washington.
Yep.
Drove overnight, got as far as you could, and finished the drive this morning.
Made it to Ontario and slept at a rest station and got up and drove here. And so I probably still smell like a campfire.
You do. I didn't want to say anything, but you do. So, but I hope people appreciate the effort that we're putting into this show.
I know, right?
It may not be a great show, but still pat us on the back, give us a thumbs up, just because we, move heaven and earth to get together and do this show. So,
and it's still in its infancy, so it's kind of like, we're not really seeing the return on the work, but we know that it's going to turn into something, so we're willing to do it.
Yeah, no, well, and that's the thing. We've both really gotten to enjoy this show, and I think especially for any young egg like this one is, it's important to stay committed to it. And so no matter what the case, if I'm in Spain and he's in a campground in Tillamook, Washington, or is it Oregon? Tillamook, Oregon. We're still going to make this show happen, and so if nothing else, I give us a little pat on the back, or have a little proud moment for our effort.
Yeah, I think of all the projects we've done recently, this is the best one we've done.
Well, and it's the first thing we've done together really in a while.
Yeah, since
Acid, probably. Where we actually collaborated on a project like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm super happy with it. I love it, and I hope it's coming through. I hope everybody else is understanding or feeling what we're feeling.
Yeah, I think they are. I think we're getting some positive
So
reviews.
In addition to a wedding, you teased a little bit last week, maybe having a little reunion with an old friend.
Oh yeah, spaced that. So before the wedding, Friday night, the wedding was on Saturday. I went to Raging River Bar in Falls City, Washington. It's this tiny little dive bar that, my buddy from Phoenix was playing at. He's a drummer. His name's Bruce. He used to play in a band called Vaden. I was going to be somewhat in the area. It was a few hours out of the way to go to the show, but it was worth it to go and see him and surprise him.
Well, and God, how long has it been since we saw those guys? Forever.
Like 10 years. It's been a long time. And I saw him unloading his stuff, walking up towards the venue, and I rolled down the window of my car. I was like, "Bruce." Turns around. Had no clue who was looking at him. I'm like, This ain't the Marquee, but it'll do. And the Marquee's a big
theater down in
probably
Arizona,
1,500 capacity venue. Actually, they remodeled. They can hold probably 2,500 to 3,000 people now.
Yeah, that was always one of my favorite clubs down there.
Yeah, I love it. But it took him a second to realize who I was, and then we spent the next hour just catching up, and it was good to hear about how everyone's doing. And he actually plays in a few bands right now. He plays in one called Alki Jones. They're like that's who I saw, and they're really good. Think of like I don't know. Think Dave Matthews meets. I had the perfect scenario and I forgot it. But
Sonny Bono.
No, more of a rock, more of like a Incubus, more like a
cool
kind of just a really cool, edgy Dave Matthews.
That seems like the kind of band that Bruce would be in.
Yeah, and having him drum, he's a freaking machine on the drummer. He used to teach students back in Phoenix. At one point, he said he had up to 70 students at a time.
Yeah, well, and he was amazing back then. I'm sure with a few more years to perfect the craft, I'm sure he's
also playing in a Beastie Boys tribute band.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And I want to go check it out. I want to go and find him and see what they're all about.
Yeah, I got to hear what that's all about too. I mean, I guess he's just playing a live drum to somebody rapping over it.
They got 3 MCs. And they all dress up like in character.
How fun.
And they play at a lot of the bigger venues there in Seattle, and he invited me to come check them out and maybe jam with them. So it'd be kind of fun to do. Because evidently they're missing a DJ.
Oh. And you got to have a DJ.
Well, yeah.
Have a Beastie Boys cover band.
But I like I said, I've never jammed with anyone. Like I've always been doing my own thing, kind of playing with that drummer recently has been fun. But dude, I'd be hella nervous to go in and just try something like that.
So we'll do it.
If the offer's there, I'll try.
Jump over that roadblock and do it.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, that's fantastic, man. I hope we get to see more of that guy. I always liked him.
Yeah, they call themselves Brass Monkey.
Oh, nice. They cover band.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check them out. So I've got to hear what that sounds like.
Yeah.
So anyway, busy week. That's really cool.
What about you? You had some stuff going on, right?
Yeah, I finally got a little bit of a breather. Normally when I go out of town, I still work or I still do whatever, it's work related. But this last weekend, I got an opportunity to go out to our family's cabin out in Bear Lake, sort of on the Idaho-Utah border. It's this big, beautiful lake. I used to go all the time when I was a little kid.
Yeah, it's gorgeous up there. One of my favorite lakes.
It's a really cool spot. And so my family has this really great cabin out there. And unfortunately, I don't get out there very often. But when I go, I love it. It's like my happy spot.
Side note, real quick, sorry to distract.
I
actually did a wedding there probably 8 or 9 years ago.
Oh, how funny.
It was right on the
North
bride.
Beach?
Yeah, the bride and groom showed up on a jet ski.
Oh, funny.
And the bride fell off getting off the jet ski. It was the funniest thing ever.
That's funny.
Like, what do you do?
Was she wearing just a white wetsuit?
No, she was wearing her wedding dress, but it was like a short one. And she got off and fell in, and it was great.
Well, that's the risk you run when you show up on a jet ski.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I got to go out there. We left Friday and went out to the lake. It's maybe 2.5 hours from where we live, and I just did a whole lot of nothing for 2.5 days and just hung.
I'm about to do a whole lot of nothing. Yeah, I can tell you that.
Yeah, just the weather was perfect. The water was perfect. This is about the only time of year the water's warm enough. You can swim in it all year, and by July it starts warming up. But in August it's finally nice and comfortable. Took the old rowboat out. We have like this old rowboat from the 50s, and so I took that out for a little bit, and it was the whole thing was great. It was just a really good experience, and I've got to get in the habit of going more than once a year because I really love it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So, and then also coming back, all weekend, the only work-related thing I did was really think a lot, because I've been trying to come up with some ways to start moving the ball on a bunch of like little eggs that I've got laying around, all these different business ideas and inventions and different things that I've got ideas for that have just been occupying a list for a long time. And I decided to try and come up with a way to sort of utilize the team that I've got at R2 Media Group to sort of facilitate getting some of these projects done. And so we came up with a little bit of a system. We put in action the first of many. There's about 9 of them that we're going to start pushing through. This first one is sort of basically just an email marketing program. It's called Those Who Do Daily. And basically, it's the inspirational tips and tricks from the world's most exceptional people, those who do, those who create, those who make, those who do things. And so basically it's just an email list. You just sign up for an email. We share motivational articles, informational articles, things like that will help you in business or in whatever you're doing. And part of this particular project that I really wanted to play with was sort of speed to market, see how quick we could actually get the idea off the ground. It's been kicking around for a little while, but I was thinking about this as a way to generate an email list and some other marketing tools. And so basically we kicked off on Tuesday. So we're recording on Wednesday this week, so we're a day behind. But we kicked off this project Tuesday morning, and we've already got a web design off to development. We've already got logos, everything ready to go. We're writing content right now as we speak.
When's your launch date that you want to have it?
Well, I put not this coming Friday, but the next. I gave us 2 weeks to basically build the whole brand and launch the website. We may be up sooner than that. Maybe soft launch early next week, and then ready to go by the end of the week.
Well, you've had a lot of experience in kind of just turn and burn and having a business up and going. Didn't you do
well, we did one other project sort of like that. Basically, I had this concept for a book I wanted to write that was sort of how to build a business over the weekend, or something to that effect. And so basically what I did is I sat down and put together a business over the weekend. So I concepted something on Friday, basically built the website, built the brand, built everything, launched, and we were fully in action by Monday. And then basically I took a bunch of notes. I wrote down the process, what we did, how we solved each hurdle. And then the idea was to put that into a book at some point. So, but then of course the book thing was going to take too long to write, and all this other stuff was hard to find the time. And so anyway, just nothing ever became of it. But the website's still up and running. It's called Side Project. You'll probably see an ad or something for it pop up on this show or at the on the website or something.
The concept's really cool. I don't know if you want to go into detail about that yet.
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. I mean, it's not that exciting or all that revolutionary, really. But basically, it's a platform for distributing digital products. So in our case, we work in the creative business. So in this case, we're basically selling fonts, digital pieces and parts, vector shapes, vector crackle patterns, distress patterns, things like that. And but what happened is after I launched this site, and it does okay. It actually does generate income. It does what it was supposed to do.
It pays for itself, at least.
Yeah, and part of the whole thing was to keep the price down and all that stuff. So, really, the overhead's really low. We have to sell about 1 product a month to keep the lights on. So it's great. It's self-sustaining. I don't really do anything with it. So, but the downside is I don't really do anything with it. And so it's become a little bit dated over the last couple of years. And so one of these eggs that I hope to sort of bring back to life is Side Project, and we're going to try and infuse it with a bunch of new products, start doing some active marketing, because we've always just sort of let it sit around passively, and see if we can actually turn that little egg into something too.
So if you're looking for some cool fonts so
if you're looking for anything like that, the fonts are great. We have a font designer that's amazing. This dude from Russia he's called Mr. Czech, and a really talented font guy. A lot of people know him, and you've seen his fonts around. People steal them and use them everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, the website's just sideprojectinc.com. And if you go there today, you will notice it's kind of dated and kind of old. Hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, we'll have it sort of refreshed and breathed new life into the thing.
So I got your Restless brand.
Yes.
You've talked in the past about reviving that and getting that going again, but over the weekend I saw someone... That
didn't make my list for some reason. I need to put it back on
Put that back on there, buddy. I saw one of my friends is using that brand, not the term Restless, for his group.
Oh, that son of a bitch.
Yeah, and the artwork is very kind of almost like I've seen it before.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so
I'll show you that.
we've talked about it before, and I will put it out here just in case anybody's trying to steal my stuff. Basically, we had a clothing company called Restless. I think we talked about it on an earlier show, but we had this clothing company. It was Restless. We basically did a lot of MMA, extreme sports, all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of in the vein of a Tap Out or, an Affliction type thing.
We were talking about a video that's still on your YouTube channel last week.
Yeah, that's right. The I Was Drunk video.
From Royal Bliss. Yeah, I looked for that. I couldn't find it.
I wonder if our channel's gone dormant.
Well, it's probably, it's
pretty old.
I just did a Google search for it and couldn't find it.
Yeah, I'll get you a link. So, but anyway, we've talked about bringing back the brand, in another shape or form.
I honestly think it would fit in the...
Well, I always liked the brand name. I always liked, even our product and stuff was good. My only thing is I sort of grew out of the MMA look.
Yeah.
And then here we had this brand that was kind of MMA centric.
I think it's been long enough where if you...
Yeah, we could come back as anything. It's just... the reason it was so MMA centric is we just followed the leads. We had opportunities in MMA, so we followed MMA. At one point, we sponsored a team of like 21 kids, that are all MMA fighters, a world ranked Muay Thai fighter. All these people.
Who was the guy that we brought in and met that one time? He was a bigger MMA guy. Came and did a meet and greet at one of the fights.
It was Ken Shamrock was one of them, and then we've had various UFC officials and stuff at different events and stuff. We were pretty into it for a little while, but yeah, I just, sort of that fad moved on. The Tap Out style got kind of old on me. And so
it's still floating around though.
Oh yeah, no, it's around and it's still super popular. The sport's not losing any steam at all. It's just that look just wasn't working for me anymore.
Yeah.
And we had sort of gotten into that, and my partner had decided he didn't have time for it. So he separated from the company, and I tried to bring in a new partner, and it just never really went anywhere from there. So we just sort of let it peter out and come to a slow stop. So, but at some point, I'd like to revisit it because, I miss it. I used to like the clothing business a lot. It was pretty fun, and, I like the stuff that we were doing and the opportunities that came with it. So
yeah, it's kind of fun to just be at the show and have the booth and have, talking to people and hearing their input on, the shirts and what they think.
Yeah,
of it.
That was the thing. In Southeast Idaho, we sort of became known, as the MMA company, so people would show up to these fights that were being put on by people we knew or worked with, but it was never our show until the very end. And,
probably 8 years ago, how long? 8 or 9 years ago, probably.
Maybe not quite that long ago, but still.
I was wearing one of your shirts 3 weeks ago, and so, dude, I remember that.
So, but at these events, sort of all over Southeast Idaho, even into eastern or western Idaho, a lot of those events sort of became synonymous with Restless, and a lot of people thought they were our events because there's so many people in the crowd wearing our shirts, and we had a really big presence. We had a massive booth and tons of swag being sold at these events and stuff, and so it started to look like we owned the place, and actually we got a little bit of resentment from a couple different promoters because they were like, hey man, I put my event together, but it looks like your event.
Yeah, it looks like you're putting
and so
it
we
on.
ran into a couple problems. And actually, eventually we sort of joined forces with them. The last 2 fights that we were a part of were Restless brand fights. We had a separate brand called just Restless Fights.
Yeah.
That was our sort of fight promotion company. And so the last 2 events we did were both Restless Fights. And so we were super heavy into the MMA scene, and then just it started to slip and just basically was let go.
Well, that's right around the same time that you kind of started focusing more on your business other than the clothing, and you were focusing more on R2.
Well, yeah. So unfortunately, and it sounds kind of bad, but basically I was just chasing the money. I had a family to provide for, everything, so I had to go where I was getting
Why would
paid.
That sound bad? It's
I don't know, because I
gave
up a dream to chase the mighty dollar.
Yeah, but you lived the dream for a little bit. I don't promote anymore,
So, but anyway, so I, basically ended up just switching more or less 100% to the design business, and more or less let everything else go because I had a bunch of, I used to manage bands. I had a whole bunch of little things going on.
Yeah.
And so anyway, basically all that went away, and I just sort of switched gears into full-time design. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it paid dividends. I mean, really being able to focus on the one project instead of being spread across 50 projects, did a lot of good for me and a lot of good for my business. So, I mean, it was worth doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, to circle back around, I mean, basically we're going to launch this website here in the coming weeks or so. So you'll start seeing little ads popping up on the show and other places just to talk about it and show basically how we took this little egg and made it into something. Now, granted, this isn't the biggest or most complex egg of all time. But still, it's from concept to completion in a couple weeks. That's pretty rapid turn on a business. And, so we'll see what happens with it. Maybe it goes somewhere. Maybe it doesn't.
This is Those Who Do Daily?
Those Who Do Daily.
Okay.
Yep. And it's thosewhododaily.com. And
is anything up yet, or is it
there's like
page?
A landing page up. That's it. So yeah, but we'll be up hopefully in the next week or so.
You have reached GoDaddy.com.
No, we have a legit branded landing page.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, in theory, I mean, the site's with the devs now, and hopefully it'll come back in the not too distant future with not too many changes.
Cool.
So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, that sort of wraps up the weekend and everything else. And we sort of got sidetracked there, but interesting conversation anyway.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of. We were talking about projects, your side project, your things you do daily, and what you did last week. Those Who Do Daily. Yeah.
Get it right.
Sorry.
It's new, so
it's not my egg.
Right. Pay attention, though. It's going to be a tasty one.
Okay.
So anyway, but one of the things I wanted to sort of circle back around, and this will bring us into sort of our topic for the day, is this concept of finding good help and finding people to help you facilitate these things. Basically, I came to the realization that I was underutilizing the people who work with me, and I felt like bringing them more closely in on some of these little eggs that have been sitting around forever was something I could do to not only work a little more closely with the people that I'm working with, but also move the ball down the field on these mini eggs.
Get some things going.
Yeah, and actually, instead of just looking at it on a list, actually start making some movement. So that's what we did. And so, but part of that is we're getting ready for a little bit of a transition where we're moving one of our employees to a little less time and moving one of the others to a more full-time position. And it got me thinking about this idea of finding good help. How do I know that in our case that this girl is the right person for the job? Or if I was trying to recruit some new help, how I might go about doing that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into that a little bit. Basically, one of the sort of the first things that I think is really important, and this is going to sound really obvious, and it is, but I see a lot of people make these mistakes. So, it might be simple advice or on the nose advice, but I think it's still an important thing to talk about. So, like I said, this is a pretty obvious one, but really important, and it's the idea of capability and competency. Bringing in somebody that's actually capable and actually competent to do a job or a task, whatever it is you're bringing them in. Obviously, if you attempt to hire somebody who has none of the abilities that you actually need out of them, then you're likely to run into some problems. And I know it does seem stupid to have to mention that, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So
I did it once.
Yeah. Well,
she was cute. Leave me alone.
Come on now. So, but of course, we all, people make decisions for a number of factors, and they're not always the best ones. I know of plenty of situations where people I know have hired someone because they came highly recommended, they were a friend of a friend or a friend of a child of a friend or something, but if they're not like actually capable of doing the job,
what's the point?
Then what are we doing?
You're just giving out money for no reason.
Yeah, that's right. To be the friend of a friend or the child of a friend, those are simply not good reasons to hire an employee.
And granted, there are like entry level things. Like if you're looking for someone just to do busy work, then granted.
Sure, it depends what you're trying to do. I mean, if you need somebody to rake the yard, the neighbor's kid's probably fine.
Yeah.
If you're looking for someone to work in a skilled position, maybe not.
You don't want to be paying for their training unless it's like an internship kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and that's the moral of the story. I wish I could remember this dude, but somebody has sort of valued the cost of a bad employee at something between $50,000 and $75,000 or something.
Wow.
And I mean, I don't know all the background of that or what industry or whatever, but I mean, it's a major expense is the point. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of everything to hire and go through this process. And so if you go through all that process and then just give it to somebody who can't do the job.
Well, one thing that there's in the clubs and DJ world and stuff like that, there's been multiple occasions where I've trained people and brought them on to do gigs where back in the day I used to have 3 or 4 mobile systems I'd send out to do schools and different events and stuff, and I'd get these guys, have them work with me on a few gigs, train them, get them going, and then send them off on their own. And come to find out, they're handing out their own business cards, trying to get my gigs from me and trying to undercut me, and they don't even own gear yet. And it's like, I mean, like, come on, man.
Fake
like,
it to make it.
Yeah.
Make it till you make it. Well,
they were definitely faking it, that's for sure. But just the I forgot where I was going with that or what's brought that up, but if you're training someone, you want them to be working for you. You want them to be bringing money in for you, not just to line their own pockets. Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, they're getting some income out of the deal. But if you're teaching them a skill and a trade for them to go and take your clients, that just makes zero sense.
Yeah, well, and, when you're talking about capability or the things that people maybe come in with, like you're saying, there's a lot of different ways to measure this. Like in the creative field, for example, we'll often, look at work samples, things like that, stuff they've done in the past. A lot of agencies will do trial jobs where they'll put you on a task or a project and then see how you do. So there are a lot of things you can do to sort of measure a person's capability. Generally, I say look beyond the resume because people are apt to bloat the resume.
I heard an ad on a radio station the other day that was talking about, there's a lot of people out in here right now that have skills that you don't know about because they don't have a piece of paper or a degree from a school. And there's a lot of that going around right now. I don't have any formal education on web development or PHP or Bootstrap or any of that stuff, but I learned it all on Lynda. I mean, there's got to be some way that you can print a certificate out or that wouldn't even hold up in a regular day-to-day job, would it?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I mean, education comes from all different places now. I mean, even if you look at me, I'm 12 credits from getting a degree.
Likewise.
and have been for years. Yeah. I mean,
the only class I have left on my audio engineering program is the acoustics, because it's all math and stuff that you have to take it online, and
what's ironic is what's left in mine are 2 classes of Spanish, which I could probably just walk through or test out of at this point.
You might as well.
And then I think there's maybe one more English class, but that's kind of it. Wow. I'm literally just about there, but honest to God, I've been so busy that I haven't stopped.
Just don't have time to do it.
And with my skill level and with everything else that I've built
and your
myself,
current resume, it doesn't even make sense to have.
Everything I've built myself over the last 15 years, 20 years. A degree for me hasn't been super important.
Yeah.
A lot of times in a creative field, they'll look for people with a degree or with some training like that. But usually, at least in my experience, on most creative
your portfolio
jobs,
speaks for you.
They say, bachelor's degree, master's degree, or equivalent experience.
Yeah.
And for people who've been in the field as long as I have, my equivalent experience is there. So really, I get up to, I might go against somebody who, if we're both really good, he may beat me on the degree, but they might be able to get me for less money or something because I don't have a degree. So I don't know. So anyway, I think in general, education's a great thing. I'm not anti-education at all, but I'm also a huge advocate for self-help, teaching yourself to do things.
I'm actually borderline anti-education right now, just because of my last experience. When I went through the program, don't get me wrong, Shoreline Community College has a great program for this. I mean, if you want to go and learn how to do music production and all this other stuff, they're great. They get all the music theory in, they do all the stuff that you might not get online, but I would say 80% of the stuff I learned there I could have taught myself. And without having the degree and having that translate into a job at a recording studio or something like that, I I wish I had my $15,000 back. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I'm still paying off student loans, so I'm with you there. But and I mean, like I say, I think it's important. I think it's more important depending on your field, and I think it's
Well, yeah, maybe, you can't become a doctor without going through. Yeah. But the cool thing about like those kind of fields, like even some teachers and nurses and stuff like that, if you go and you work in like say a lower income part of town or a hospital that's subsidized by the government or something like that, usually you can go and get your student loans paid off.
Yeah. I actually know a guy that went to I think Tennessee or something for dental school, and afterwards he did his residency or whatever they call it in dentistry in an inner city program, and basically they're working to pay off his debt.
My good friend right now did the same thing. Dental program, just got out. He's in the Navy, and he's got 2 years left, and his whole student loans are paid off.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, you can't beat that.
No, it's pretty good. And I mean, of course, you're working for it. You're paying your dues, but I mean, that's so great. Get through a medical program and pay off all that massive debt.
I couldn't even imagine having a $100,000 bill looming over my head. Granted, when you get a job as a dentist, you're making decent income.
Yeah, but still, to have to pay it all off yourself versus having the government or somebody pay for it. So it's for sure a thing to consider. So more though than just competency, physically being able to work Photoshop or whatever. Another little piece that's, super closely related is capability. And some people might sort of put those things together, but in my mind, capability is a little bit more nuanced. Basically, this is the portion where, will your employee go above and beyond a simple execution, doing things, more than just to the letter, but going above and beyond, delivering on functions that require more than just like or require a little creativity.
Yeah, just not doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, because I mean, there are a lot of people who can come in and just do sort of the trained monkey version of a job where they just sit down, they do, insert square peg into square hole, done all day. That's their job.
Yeah.
But especially in the creative field, we you
got a lot of templates.
People
you got
who
things
can think outside of the box a little bit. And I found this guy online. I think he puts it sort of perfectly, or sums up the way that I feel about capability. His name's Alan Hall. He's a contributor for Forbes, and he says that basically being capable means that the employee has the potential for growth and the ability and willingness to take on more responsibility. I think that those are obviously excellent traits that you would look for in an employee, and as you're trying to hire, those would be perfectly that type of employee would be the one that you would actually see a return on your investment.
Yeah, I always thought you're never going to find someone that's as dedicated as you are, but if you can find someone that's close and enjoys, if they're passionate about what they're doing and it's something that they enjoy doing and you treat them well, you're going to have a good employee for years to come. Yeah,
well, and that takes me right into the next subject, or the next topic I wanted to cover is basically, do they have a fire in their belly? Does that person that you're interviewing, that prospect, do they have sort of that drive, that internal motivation that makes them a good employee?
Not whiskey.
Yeah, basically.
The fire in your belly.
Exactly, different.
Sorry.
Basically, a person's character can make or break a prospect for me. While competency and capability are, of course, two important factors, I think more than just a capable or competent person, you need somebody who has that hungriness or that hunger in their belly to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff.
Well, like, you've had a few people that have the desire and the passion, but maybe they're good in Photoshop but don't know Illustrator or don't know InDesign. And those, Illustrator and InDesign, there's a learning curve to the software, but if they have the desire to be in the field or the industry in the first place, they're going to go and learn it regardless.
Yeah, well, and I mean, bringing it back to, Berta, for example, our girl in Spain that we're moving into this full-time position, she has that hunger. Like, she's really driven. She's a freelancer right now, but she's hungry for work. She wants to do anything she can. She'll take on whatever she can. And for me, that screams quality employee. This is somebody that's going to work hard for us. I know plenty of folks that know Photoshop or whatever, but do they have that hunger? Are they driven? Are they of good character in general? Are they honest people, trustworthy? Are they team players? I think it's important to know the software. I mean, obviously that's the tool of your trade, or in my case, Photoshop is the tool of the trade, but maybe it's turning a wrench or, whatever it is you're hiring for. But if I can't check those boxes, honest, trustworthy, driven, then maybe that's not the person for me.
Yeah, definitely.
and to your point earlier, are they committed? Is this prospect in it for the long haul, or are they just passing through? A lot of people, especially with sort of low paying jobs, positions that are sort of entry level, maybe they're not there for the long term.
And it's hard to blame them, because if all you have is an entry level job and it doesn't pay well, you don't get benefits.
I guess, but I like the person who, even if it is a low job or an entry level job, they still bring the fire. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they do the best damn job they can at that job.
Well, definitely. But, if they're going into it knowing that, hey, this is Taco Bell, I'm not really getting any learning experience other than a paycheck, it's hard to bring the fire to that.
Yeah,
unless you
true.
get the fire sauce.
Well, and for me...
Fire sauce is
Well, and for me, though, that's the differentiator, right? If I'm hiring or I'm looking to staff, I don't want the guy that's here just because it's Taco Bell and looking to collect a check. Yeah. I want the one who can bring that fire, and that would be how I would differentiate who I hire from who I don't.
Well, that for me, that's a huge motivator. I've had the job that I'm just there to be there because I have zero passion in selling cell phones. But when the boss or whatever gives me a task or something that, I can focus on and get creative, and it's my project, it's something that I have, I can see the direct results from, then it's a game to me. Then I start thinking okay, how can I do the best that I can do? Whereas if they just treat me like a 9-to-5-er and I'm a little pissant that they can just push around, I'm not going to be motivated to do shit. So it's kind of on the boss and the employer, too, to be a good motivator for their employees.
Yeah, well, and that goes right into this. It sort of segues nicely into what I wanted to talk about, which is basically that, of course, you want someone who can commit to you. But keep in mind that often that hunger, the very thing that makes them a great and driven employee, like we were talking about, is the same ambition that keeps them on the prowl for what's new and what's better. So at that point, it becomes a two-way street, just like you were saying. This person came to find you because they were driven, because they had that fire. But once they decide to go with you as an employer, it's on you to reward that decision, or you will be passed over. They will be
go to someone else. Yeah.
It's not that they aren't committed, that they're not willing to commit. They were looking for someone to commit to. But if you can't keep up as an employer with their ambition, then they're toast. They're gone with the wind.
Yep. If you keep giving them little projects that, they don't care about, they don't want to do, and they want to do something else where they're learning this or doing that, it's an open line of communication you pretty much have to have with your employees. Maybe have a quarterly review, maybe have a weekly, how's things going? Anything I can help you with? Anything you want to focus on? Stuff like that, just so that you know their needs and desires just as much as they know yours.
Yeah.
And then that way you can maybe tailor the work that they're doing to something they want to do.
Yeah, and and I think that this type of behavior, the stuff we're talking about, is really common in sort of high-performing, high-level, super capable folks. But I think it's important not to confuse their ambition or their willingness to move on to a bigger challenge for the flaky people.
Yeah,
because there definitely
definitely the flaky people out there.
And so I think when you're looking to hire or whatever, take a look at the resume, get a feel for how much movement they've had in a career. Although nowadays, especially in the agency business, tenure in an agency is 2 years or less now.
Really?
And so, it's not like the old days where you would stick with a place for 25 years or whatever. Now, most places, it's 1 or 2 years and it's on to the next, on to the next, on to the next.
It's just kind of expected.
Chasing opportunities, chasing experience, whatever it is. But you can't just stay stagnant anymore. And so you can look at this, past movement and stuff to try and get a feel. And then I say judge their character. I know you're not supposed to judge. We're all equal. Everyone's the same. But you gotta judge. You gotta think about who you're hiring, and you'll be able to pick out the flakes from the ones who are just highly motivated.
Yeah.
So next thing I wanted to get into a little bit, and this is, it's all sort of related. You'll notice that each of these subjects sort of tie into one another. But this next part is do they fit in? So this is sort of an extension of the character discussion, but it's maybe a little bit broader. Maybe beyond just sort of their intestinal fortitude, this is sort of a question of general compatibility. Do these people fit in with your company, your culture, your, lifestyle, whatever it is, the things that are a part of your business. Everyone's going to come to the table with their own moral compass, their thoughts, their beliefs, their ways, their mannerisms. And as a leader, or as a person who's doing the hiring, you've got to think about how those traits are going to work with your existing team and sort of the company at large. You certainly don't want to be in a position where you endanger those who already are loyal to you
and
by
make
bringing
them
in
want to
somebody
leave.
that makes waves.
And if you're, you've got this new person that you're paying more attention to, and they feel left out, or if you like, I see this all the time in the bars, in the venues, in the places that I work. You'll get like a bar back who takes on the role of a bartender when he shouldn't, or he's just causing waves when really he's just not in the role he's supposed to be in. He's just trying to cause problems, and it's toxic. If you have a good team, a good, a group of bartenders, barbacks, your entertainment's consistent and all this, it works wonders. But once you have that, that one problem person, it causes good people to leave and go elsewhere.
Yeah, no, well, and that's the thing. So like in my business, for example, in the agency business, is it possible, is this prospect going to get along with colleagues is, of course, paramount, number one, because is it going to make waves, cause problems, depending on the line of work, so in my line of work, for example, would you be comfortable putting this prospect in front of a client or a partner?
Yeah, definitely.
If I've got to send somebody out, for example, one of our girls in Spain on a meeting to go meet somebody and I can't be there, would I trust the people that I've hired to go do that job? And of course, I wouldn't bat an eye at it. But it's because I have good people who are loyal, who are smart, who are good at their job, and they'd be perfect for doing that. But if you fail, or if you make poor decisions at this spot, and if you bring a rotten egg into your company or into your universe, you can harm all kinds of things. Your existing staff, you can put clients at risk, or force your partners to be like, questioning your judgment a little bit. God, dude, what were you thinking when you brought this person in?
The last thing you want to do is, create waves and ruin something that's already good.
Yeah, well, and what it is, more than anything, it's about being honest. It's about, reading the situation honestly, choosing candidates who will work with your people, being willing to not take a candidate who, may not be a good fit, and, not sort of being afraid, and saying, oh, well, okay, and taking every call.
What are your thoughts of doing like a trial period, like a 2-week trial period kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly acceptable way of doing it. I know a lot of times in the agency business, I've seen 90-day trials, I've seen 2-month trials, I've seen single project trials, and generally they're paid. They don't ask you to come in and work for free. They'll say, hey, we'll pay you X number of dollars per hour on this project, and we'll see how you do. We'll see how you fit with the team, we'll see how you work with the creative director and whomever else, and generally, at least in my experience, most agencies have been fair about this, and they compensate you. And if it works, cool. And, maybe it turns into a career. If it doesn't, fine. We've talked a little bit about my relationship with this agency, Thomas Arts, and basically the way my relationship began with them was I donated a month of my time for free to them in exchange for learning a little something about the agency business. Basically, I had been a designer my whole life. I called myself an agency, but I'd never set foot in one.
Yeah.
And so I, sent out emails to a bunch of different places. Thomas Arts accepted and said, oh yeah, okay, come on down. Let's give it a shot. And so I came down. I worked for free for a month. So in that month, not only was I humble, I wasn't asking for any money. I was working early mornings and late hours. I was giving a lot of myself. I fit in right with their crew. No problems, I made good relationships. I worked hard, and people began to respect me. And at the end of the month, even though it was an unpaid thing, they actually gave me a little bonus. They gave me a little spiff at the end to say thank you.
That's awesome.
And, I went back about my business. But 2 years later, when they had an opening, they said, hey, man, how do you feel about coming to Salt Lake and working for us? And, but it was all that thing. Now, granted, my trial was sort of self-imposed. I put it on myself, but they were still willing to give it to me.
Yeah, but if you didn't put that on yourself and try to get out there, you wouldn't be here now.
Yeah, if I hadn't made that overture, and of course, now the situation's a little different. They retained my company to do work for them now. But, before that, none of the relationship I have with them now, suffice it to say, would exist if I hadn't done that month for free.
Well, I was just talking with the Caroline, the person from Bermuda on the camp out that I was over at this weekend. Man, I can barely talk. I was kind of reminiscing with her and talking about how the first gig I did with them was because I bought a speaker from some guy on Craigslist, and he was sick and couldn't make it that weekend. And I went up there, and they loved it. And then we started doing bi-weeklies because I didn't want to take his gig and I didn't want to drive that far. And one day he called, no showed, and then from there on out I was up there. And it was kind of fun just sitting back and thinking, like how my life had changed just because of a phone call. It's weird how the last 10 years of my life, I moved up to Anacortes. I lived there for 3 or 4 years. I started playing in clubs because of that, and instead of focusing more on weddings. And now I'm kind of reverting back and doing weddings again. But for a while there, that's all I did full time was just venues. And it was a lot of fun, and it was a good learning experience. And the relationships that I built through that, I went camping with them this weekend. It was, it's important that you get a good team and a good group of people working for the same common goal.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, and we'll talk about again, I'm sure, relationships are key in building good relationships. But just like I did with Thomas Arts, giving of myself, you went into this place, you worked hard, and it paid dividends.
Yeah, one thing that she said that stood out that was apparent to her was the professionalism that I came in and where the other guy kind of would just sit on his butt on a stool and hit play and stop, didn't really do anything. And I came in, got there early, got everything set up, did a sound check, did all, she was just really impressed by the extra steps that I did versus...
Yeah, well, it's the difference between a pro and an amateur.
Yeah.
And it's like that anytime you can go above and beyond and act professionally, even if you're new to it or even if you don't know, anytime you put in the extra effort or the extra hours or the extra whatever, you never know who's watching.
Yeah. And in the wedding industry, for example, it's like, do you tape your cords down? Do you hide things? Do you try and make it look neat instead of having a big rat's nest of cables on top of the thing? Do you have speaker stands? You wouldn't believe how many times you'll see DJs just set a speaker on a table and call it good. Yeah. And it just looks so bad and just so unprofessional.
Well, and that's the thing. It's the difference between the A's and the B's, right?
Yep.
That's how people start to differentiate and make decisions.
Yep, definitely.
So the last thing I wanted to get into is this, obviously, maybe it's the elephant in the room. I don't know. Some people are comfortable talking about it. A lot of people aren't, but it's pay.
Yeah.
You got to get paid, son. You got to.
Yep, definitely.
And, so it's an important factor. And, but, whatever the budget is, whatever you're capable of paying, it's important that your prospect be fully satisfied with what's offered to them.
Yeah.
If you try and snowball them or you beat them around the ears until they come down to your price or whatever, they're
going into it knowing they're looking for something else.
Right.
And the other part of that is they need to be able to negotiate. If they feel they're worth more, but they can't nut up and actually ask for it, then it's kind of on them.
Well, that's the thing. If you offer a rate that isn't fair, or if you're trying to take advantage or be a little smart with somebody, they'll sniff you out right away. And the prospect right from the beginning is going to feel underappreciated and, will likely underperform if they take your job at all.
There's been a few venues that I've worked at in the past where they lowball me going in, and I say, here's the deal. I can understand your justification for wanting that rate, but I'm going to be doing a lot more than your normal guy, what you're used to. And so I'll do that for a month, 2 months. And then we're going to sit down and go over this again. And usually in those 2 months, I've done enough side work and, I'll do flyers and promote on social media and put some lighting in or help with the sound system and stuff like that most guys wouldn't do. But just the fact that I'm willing to kind of go that extra step when I go and, after the 2 month period and ask for a raise and say, hey, this is what we talked about. They usually say yes. A, because they know I do a good job, and B, they don't want to go through the effort of finding someone else and doing it all over again.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, this was a topic that we talked about before, all the way back in episode 3 in our infancy. You know, it was the power of perception and knowing your worth.
Yeah.
You know, it's really important to know what you're worth, you know. And of course, I mean, the market's only going to bear what it will bear. So, I mean, some people can afford to pay you X number of dollars or whatever you think you're worth, and other people can't. And, you know, for whatever variety of reasons. And so, you know, you may know your worth, but if it doesn't translate to what somebody can feasibly do, you know, then it's not a match, and that's okay. You know, that's not a problem. Just move on, find something else. But, you know, basically, the moral of the story, or what I was getting at with this idea of trying to take advantage or offer unfair rates or lowballing people, is it's just not a good way to start a relationship, especially for more experienced and established people who have already established their worth or do have an understanding.
For me. Like, I've actually just flat out told people no, just because if they're going to come in that low, what I'm going to ask for is going to turn them off anyway, so it's not even worth my time.
Well, and to your point about negotiation, some people are, you know, especially more senior people, might be willing to forego a little money in exchange for something else. You know, so let's say you've got a low budget. You're trying to get somebody of high talent, you know, maybe they believe in your company and they're willing to come work, but the dollars and cents just aren't working out. You know, you can maybe trade out some ownership in the company or a high level position in the company, or give them some freedom that they want in work, or, you know, whatever. I mean, in my experience, I've traded, you know, a bump in salary for more opportunity and, you know, first dibs at promotions.
Early on in your book world, I did an audiobook for you, just pro bono, just because it gave me promoter credits on an audiobook on Audible. You know, that's something that I didn't have. And so it gave me something for my portfolio. So granted, there wasn't really a budget there because we were just trying it. We were doing it. And we hadn't zero sales history, zero anything. And just the fact that I could put an audiobook together and get it listed on a reputable company like Audible and have my name in the producer credits, that's enough for me for that project.
Right.
I won't do it again, but
luckily, well, it hasn't made a lot of dough, so don't worry, you haven't been cut out of anything.
Darn. I want my 50 cents, dude.
But anyway, like to your point earlier, you know, keep in mind things are negotiable, especially if you've got a small budget. Just talk to your prospect, listen and understand their needs, and even if you fall short, you know, in places like budget or other things like that relative to other places they've applied for, maybe they got a bigger offer somewhere else. Things like growth opportunities, the quality of clients that you have, other things like that might be the factor that swings them in your direction. It may not always be financial.
Or the project they get to work on. Yeah, like if it's something, you know, cancer related and one of their family members just died of cancer and they get to work on a big, you know, promo or something for that. You know, you never know.
Yeah, you just never know. So, I mean, the moral of the story for me, don't keep anything off the table. Don't try and wheel and deal. Tell them what you can offer, and it'll either work or it won't.
And you know, the thing is, they'll respect you more for being straight up with them versus being like, oh, well, you know, just pussyfooting around and trying to
and in my mind, it's a much better way to start a relationship. All the cards are on the table. You're ready to go. I think starting off with like a half-truth or some skewed negotiation, you know, something tilted in your favor as the business owner or whatever, it's just not a great way to start a relationship.
Definitely.
So with that, go hire somebody, contribute to this economy.
Yep.
I do want to give a little bit of a shout out. I got a sad text from one of my dear friends, Will Truren over at Dead Flesh Co. He's a guy I met in Cleveland last year at a design conference there. I talked about it last week. It's called the Weapons of Mass Creation Fest. He finally got caught up on the show and realized I'm not coming out there this weekend. And but he's the only one I got a text from, so none of those other posers are listening to the show, apparently. But that said, you know, I'm really bummed. I'm not going to be able to make it out there. You know, just too much else going on the plate. You know, this year's been nuts with travel, and I can't work it in this time.
Yeah, justification to get out there for that one extra weekend. It just, man, you nonstop.
Well, it would have been great. I mean, I really enjoyed meeting these guys last year. I mean, they really took me in and let me hang out with them. I enjoyed it a lot, and I would like to go spend more time with them. Just unfortunately, it's not going to work out this time. So big shout out and hats off and applause and whatever for for everybody who's going out to Weapons of Mass Creation Fest this weekend. It's worth going. It's a good experience. This year they're bringing live music back and some other fun things. It'd be definitely worth going. Also, check out my friend Will's clothing company at I think it's deadfleshco.com or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
it works pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. So be sure to go check him out. So with that, let's call this thing done. Our plugs, our normal plugs. Check out the Spotify playlist. If you haven't, do it. Get subscribed. Take a listen and check out the music of the show.
Yep, I posted those mixes from last week up there.
Excellent.
You can check me out at djontic.com.
Yeah, you can. I'm checking you out.
I know. Also, check out that band that I saw last week, Alki Jones. They're based out of Seattle. Bruce is the drummer, good friend of mine. And, if you see him coming around, go see him.
Yeah.
Oh, you know who else is coming to town?
Who?
Boba Flex.
Ooh, I love those cats.
Yes, they're playing in Jerome.
Oh, fantastic.
We got to go to that.
Yeah, Boba Flex is great. I bet they're playing Salt Lake, too. We'll have to look.
Yeah.
So, also, who is that? I think it's Rancid and Dropkick Murphys. Ooh. Oh, you know what? I think it was just this past weekend. But, awesome show.
Yeah.
Those guys are all great. 311 just came through also, which is
I wanted to go to that one. I remember that.
Yeah, no, it's 'tis the season for summer tours.
Yeah, the problem with me is I'm always working. I can never justify taking a gig off to go to a concert, but I need to.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and like I had tried to tell you about a show to go see in Seattle this last weekend.
Who were they?
They're called OK to Change. They are some old friends of mine from back in the MNO OPM days, and we'll talk about that some other time. But really talented musicians, really fun music. They're great people. They're definitely worth checking out. So if you see them passing through, again, they're called OK to Change, and we can put some links in the show notes.
Cool.
Finally, anything you want to learn about me or the company, R2 Media Group, find us at r2mg.com on the web, or at r2mg on Twitter, or at R2 Media Group on Instagram. And finally, the show, follow us at Eggs Show on Twitter and Instagram, or visit us online at eggscast.com.
Cool.
Well, Mikey, I think that's episode 13. Unlucky 13.
Well, we got that over with.
I didn't want to bring it up until the end.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Anyway, cool. Well, thanks so much. Everybody have an awesome week. Keep working on your eggs, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Later.